Hello there and welcome to Train Fever. I'm Colonel Failure. Things are moving very positively. So we've got our loop completed in both directions, and we're working hard to try and get it to the point that that we can run services down that loop. So last episode we worked to signal up the entire distance. So it should mean that now we can actually add services to that route. Now, we're running 2 trains at the moment. No, we're running more than 2 trains. What the hell am I talking about? We're running a couple of trains at the moment on the loop already, but we want to get them working in both directions. So we might not need to buy more engines, more locomotives, more trains. We should just be able to retask them. That means a new loop. So let's get that set up. Right, now, obviously, this is a to and from Maryport loop. When we're done, Maryport should be Maryport, just back up there, yeah. We should be able to use Maryport as a kind of a midway point on our route, but for now, we don't want to start in Maryport, because doing so will undoubtedly lead to it using the wrong platform, given that they have a couple to choose from. Well, in fact, 8 to choose from. So we'll start from Holsworthy. And in order to keep things on the right side of the track, we'll then we'll ping one signal, and hopefully pinging that signal will mean that it sticks on the right side of the track. Now, there is a high possibility here that that I've got tiny chunks of track missing, and that will show up once we've actually kind of moved the route along. Right, let's go as far as there and see if we've highlighted. Good. Smashing. Right, good, on the right side of the track. Obviously, I want all trains travelling on their right at all times. So, okay, on to Bronze Yard. And then we'll go round. Yep, okay, this is, this should be relatively painless. I've got everything in place already. And the reason I want to start running this service as soon as possible is that I want to start building demand at these stations, because as we add more trains to the stations, obviously they're going to be picking up more passengers, and as those trains get faster, the need to replenish passengers is going to become more urgent. Now, we've already got in-town kind of coach services at each stop, so that's going to help, and especially since those are already established, and we've already got a decent amount of passenger demand established. But we want to make sure that we can max out capacity on every train as often as possible. Right, okay, that's not highlighted the route, which means we've got a gap somewhere. And these 2 chaps are actually on different tracks. That's interesting. Interesting and a little odd. Huh. Okay, well, if they're on different tracks, it means that track's working. But usually, when you add something to your route, you don't get. In fact, I'm going to remove Wallingford from the route, back up to Alnwick. Okay, fine. Have we got a gap? Usually, it's right at the edge of the station or at a point section. If I add Alnwick signal 2, just to make sure that this stays properly aligned. I would expect to see a tiny gap in the track. These longer sections are usually okay for not forming gaps up, but you can never tell when you've been, chopping away. Right, I'm going to assume that that's working, especially since we've actually got trains running down here, and see if it kind of compensates for itself when we approach Maryport. So here we go, into Maryport Grand Central. Okay, yeah, that seems to have fixed it. Okay, and then back out to Holsworthy. Now, this is actually very similar to a route that I'm already running, the route that I'm already running, with the exception of kind of forcing it onto one side. There we go. Okay, so that's all happy-go-lucky. All right. Now, again, as mentioned in the last episode, it's not going to work very efficiently to begin with, because we'll probably end up using just one side of the station this time around. Until we complete the full loop, which will basically, it should work a little like a figure of eight. That's my hope. Anyway, right, so here we go. Let's call this the Holsworthy loop, just for worthy loop, and it is going and clockwise. Okay. Right, now let's have a word with our services that we've got running on this system and get them set up on the right one. So the Bromyard loop here, line Holsworthy loop. Now we're likely to run into some situations where some trains start complaining that they can't find a way onto the loop correctly, but all being well, that will sort itself out. I might need to go in and do a little bit of assistance. In fact, that's 2 in a row now that I've been waiting for a free space to actually operate. Okay, interesting. So, you know, this is going to be challenging. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Bromyard loop. It has been operating for us, but what we're going to try and do is move those over to the more efficient new line, so that we can then set up the opposing direction. So we can set up the anti-clockwise version. Now, if I had any sense about me, and you know, you've seen me play often enough to know that that's not something that we'd advertise as a key factor, but I would put the slower trains on one route and the faster trains on another, in order to stop people getting bogged down. Alright, set line. There we go. Right, we can now kill the Bromyard loop. We'll automatically replace vehicles on this loop. Where are we? Here we go. Okay, do we want to upgrade significantly at this time? No, let's hold fire for now. The Mikado's a perfectly viable service, but I've played through a little further, actually refreshing the game and going from scratch, just to see what's coming up. And what I do know is coming up is a whole slew of new locomotives are due reasonably soon, so I'm going to hold fire on that for now. So that's the loop as is. The question is it running? Okay, where are you? You've got no path to get onto the loop. You should have a path. Ah, we're waiting for you to come in. Okay, that's fine. So he's clearly coming on the wrong platform, and that's okay, as long as he can get back out again. So you're on the loop as well. Yeah, there we go. So when this as soon as he pulls in past these points, given that there's no signal here, and I daren't put one on because it will create a kind of blocking situation. But all being well, as soon as he pulls in, there we go, he's pulled past the points, so this guy can come back out again, which is a good thing. And this kind of scene shouldn't be unusual once we've completed both sides of the loop. And as you can see from my balance, you know, we're up to 7.5 million. I think you can rest assured that that we're going to be making that happen relatively soon. I want to complete this loop in full before I start working too heavily on the others, just so that I mean, if nothing else, for kind of proof of concept that it's working. All right, good. You're going the right way. Let's see if we've got anybody else who's jammed. Are you waiting there, my friend? You're waiting for a free path. Now, I should have put a signal further ahead than that. So you're coming around here. Oh no, that's waiting far too far back. That's not going to pay off. Let's put that in there, and that can at least then it can move a little bit further forward before getting stuck. In fact, we can go one further still. And you might think that, you know, it's a little bit redundant putting so many signals in, but actually it allows your queues to work much more effectively. Because it wouldn't surprise me if this guy here had held up the chap behind. In fact, look, you know, that's already kind of proven the point. He was previously being held up there. So now at least when that one pulls into the station, it can go all the way to the junction at this point. Which is better. Not brilliant, but better. Okay, how are you doing, pal? You're a little confused because you can't get to the right side of the track? You're waiting for a free path. That's interesting. You shouldn't be. Let's give you a switch there to play with and see if that helps you out. There we go. Yes, in motion. Splendid. Off you trot. And for some reason, I don't have... Where's the release signal? That will operate as a release next time around when he's on the right side of the track. Yeah, see, look, all the signalling's here. Admittedly, what I don't have is signalling going on the anti-clockwise version, but I'll fix that as I set the trains up. Right, let's see, where's the next one? Next one is there, also on the wrong side of the track. Well, I kind of knew this was likely. Let's get you over onto the right side. There you go. And to be honest, you know, these extra little point systems that I'm putting in, there's no harm in that in the slightest. You know, this is the ability to switch from one side of the track to the other is actually kind of helpful. As much as it shouldn't be needed, you know, I've played enough to know that it will be needed on a regular basis. And you're being held at this... you're being held because you're also on the wrong side of the track. And what are you doing? Why are you there? You shouldn't be here. You should be on the other side of the track, my friend. There we go. Right, so if I now put some more points here, that should free that up. Theoretically. Teething problems. Nothing more than that. There we go. He's off and running again. Good. Alright. Where's my next victim? The pathfinding for the trains is actually pretty respectable for the most part. It's only once in a while that they get snarled up trying to go the wrong way. Or actually, it's more than that. They try and go against their natural inclination to drive on the right. Where the heck are you going? You're probably on a different track, aren't you? Yeah, okay. Let's put you on the Holsworthy Loop. You can join the looping service. There you go. And what? Where are you heading? Stop. Reverse. Go. Now you're going to get a little bit held up by that chap that's in front of you, but you should have the opportunity to get things right. Now I think there was a switch here somewhere. Where are we? No, let's put some points on here swiftly so that we can get on the right side of the track. There's a shocker. Okay, well, you're just going to have to run up the wrong side of the track for a minute. And obviously all this slows down the creation of the anti-clockwise. It's very tempting to stick the game on fast forward, but I want to experience the whole thing if at all possible. Come on, they shouldn't... He's well gone. Look, he's miles away. Elvis has left the building. Come on. In your own time. Alright, what if I build it further away? There we go. And hopefully that should allow this chap here to rejoin the correct side of the track, because obviously the route knows which side it wants them on. It's just a case of the trains actually finding their way there. Yeah, so we'd created a little bit of a log jam. Actually, not too severely at all. He was clearly waiting at this signal here. The only downside could possibly be if this train switches tracks at those points that I just made, which are... Where did I just put them? Right here. Then this follow-on service is going to get held up a little. But, you know, that's inevitable. These are, you know, this is the kind of situation you create for yourself in kind of running a half service. And obviously I'm going to have to do this again when we complete the full double side? The double loop. Yeah, you know, the other side of Maryport. So let's just make sure there's nobody else that's completely stuck. Now we've got 2 train services here waiting at the signal. Presumably we've got one about to leave. Oh, he's saying he can't go. What's your problem? Which free path are you waiting for? Have we got a... We must have a release signal here. Not anywhere near close enough. Alright, let's put it in there. That'll free him up, I'm sure. There we go. So the queuing system works, but you've got to keep an eye on it. You can't just assume that, you know, bang a couple of signals in and everything's grand, because right now he was waiting. What were you actually waiting for? Yeah, you were waiting for this service to hit that signal ahead of Holsworthy, which is miles away. Now that's great for creating space in between your different services, but lousy in terms of actually being able to run a hell of a lot of services along the route. The ideal, of course, is to have signals every couple of 100 meters, which will radically increase the number of services you can run down that line. But will your stations be able to fulfill the level of demand you're after? That's the question. Okay, right. So you've now cleared that signal, which leaves you free to go, which is fine, which will leave you free to go as well as soon as he's cleared that signal. Some of the passengers here having a ghost train experience in that tunnel. Some people would pay extra for that. And I imagine we're probably getting close to something else queuing up behind them. Not for a little while. Okay, that should be okay. So yeah, as I mentioned before, this situation will resolve itself. I'm so confident it will resolve itself once we're further along. Right, let's set up the signalling up in the opposite direction. So the first things first, we'll have a clear signal here. Now remember, everything goes on the right. So as soon as a train clears this signal here coming out of the station, we should be rather splendidly glorious. I'll put another one just before the tunnel because that's what I like to do. So this is going to be the anti-clockwise version of the loop. And I'm not going to run too many services down the anti-clockwise version to start with, because I want to save the money to actually expand to get the other side of the loop complete. I think rather than, you know, muddle through in this fashion, I think the smarter move is going to be get it working. Station clear. But eventually, you know, there's no upper limit to the number of trains I want to put on it. It's more a case of what is the optimum number of services. And I have no clue what that's going to be. The minimum, of course, is going to be the number of stations in the loop. But that's the minimum. You know, that's kind of the minimum maximum that we could have. So you're looking at, what, maybe 10, at least 10 going in each direction. What? Is that a graphical error there? Must be. There's trains running down here. That's got to be a graphical glitch. trains run down here all the time. I'm going to pretend I didn't see that. Because it looks like, you know, we could use Christopher Reeve to turn up and bridge that with his Kryptonian self. Yeah, it's definitely there, look. Do not like. Alright, if we get the bulldozer out, it should indicate... Yeah, you see, these are two separate... they're two distinct pieces of track. Alright, well, I'm going to fix that. Because that's not what I had in mind. Using the points trick there to... there we go. Yeah. It didn't look like it was causing a problem, but that's very strange. Okay, onwards. Here we go. Let's go. Come on. Already got one ahead of the tunnel. Right, let's go to the other side. Let's put one out here. It could, you know, I could get away in terms of getting this done. I could get away with just mirroring like that the signal that's on the other side of the track. But I'm going to try and do it in such a way that is somewhat harmonious to the services I'm running. Right, okay, we haven't got an entry signal here, so we ought to put one on there. Yes, we have. It's further up. Well, why would you put it further up? What's so special about? Clearly not thinking when I did that. All right, okay, and where's that next one? Quite a lot further away. Let's put this one in there. And again, the release signal for this one is a little bit far out. Oh, you're not going to let me, are you? See, release signals are really rather important because obviously a train's going to pause while it's in the station. And that's fine. It means that you can actually let your services bunch up a bit. So having a release signal immediately outside the station is no biggie. You know, that's perfectly acceptable. Because it will allow the departing service plenty of time to kind of get away. Yeah, you see I've done it again here. What's the matter with me? You spent an entire episode doing something about signalling. I haven't reverted to an older save or something, have I? Because, you know, that would be foolish. 9 million in the bank, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah. Okay, right. I can feel already that the next episode is going to be a very straightforward one. It's going to be building the other side of the loop. And that's going to be tremendously exciting because we've not run trains in that area at all previously. And as such, you know, this is going to be the first services that people have had. And there we go. There's the new train that we were looking for. Is that the big boy? I'll have a look in a sec. I'll fish up a depot and have a quick look. Everyone's now running on the right side of the track. That's good. Now you can set signals to be one way only, and there are merits in doing so. But you should only be setting signals one way only if you've set your paths up badly. You know, because since you can use signals as waypoints, there's no need at all for. Let's put one on the other side as well as a release. Yeah, there should be no need for one-way signalling if your paths are set up well, because the trains should already know where they're going. Not to mention the fact that if you have to pull any kind of a special service, you know, where you don't necessarily want trains to follow their standard route. Or you want to switch them around, or you redevelop routes, you change out how they're working. You don't want the limitation of having a bit of track where you can only go down it one way. So I would advise against one-way signalling. Although, if you know better, let me know. You know, if you disagree with that statement, then by all means give me your alternate perspective, because you know I'm comfortable with being wrong, which is fortunate since it happens quite regularly. But yeah, for my money, one-way signals, just not worth it. And more than that, just not needed. Where should we put the last one? The last one we'll put here. That's the last place we can put a signal there. As frequently mentioned, if you're operating in a complicated points area, don't put signals in between sets of points. You will end up blocking yourself. And you don't want that. Right, I need a depot. We must have one out here somewhere. Actually, I don't need a depot. I need to set the route up. Okay, right, well, get on with it then. So we'll start, we'll go in the opposite direction. So we'll start from Wallingford. Right, here we go. Tally-ho. Alright, Wallingford. Let's get them on the right side of the track from the get-go so that there's no ambiguity as to what I'm after here. Yep, good. Now, obviously, there are points that I've recently put in during this episode to help get trains onto the right side of the track, and there is a risk that in setting up this counter loop, we'll see trains try to cross over onto the wrong side of the track. So, while I should only need to put a signal as a waypoint in once or twice on the main loop, and then maybe once more or twice more as they approach Maryport, I do need to keep an eye on the fact that the trains are running on the right side of the track. Otherwise, you end up in one of those lovely head-to-head train situations that slows the whole thing down, or worse still, brings it all to a complete stop. Yeah, you see, look, this always bothers me. When it doesn't, for some reason, fill in the loop. Now, I think that it could be a distance-based thing. Let's go to here and see if that fixes it. It hasn't. So this suggests to me that there's a gap somewhere between Bishop's Waltham and Bromyard and Wilmslow. So let's scout. Steady with the camera there, sir. Yeah, let's just scout the track and make sure that's working all right. So where are we? This is Bishop's Waltham. So we'll add a signal here just to, indicate where it should be running. You have to be careful about blinking when you're doing a check along these lines, because you could miss it. Well, chances are it will be one tiny little gap. We can, as much as we can assume that it's working, I don't want to assume that it's working. I want to know for a fact that it's working. Okay, well, there doesn't appear to be a gap in between those two. So let's pretend that's working. You can get quite dizzy doing this. Right, okay, here we go. So from Holsworthy, we zip up the right-hand side of the track, obviously. And then Maryport Signal 8 into Maryport Grand Central. There you go. That seems to have made it happy. And then back out, and it's already selected the right side of the track, which is fantastic. Okay, well, this indicates to me that we've got this sorted, and then back into Wallingford. Excellent. Okay, so this is the. You know what? I'm going to call this the Wallingford Loop. At least for now. It's somewhere in the back of my head, someone saying that, I was going to do something else with Wallingford. Oh, yes, it's going to be part of Worthing, isn't it? All right, I will change the name of that then. Where are we? Bromsbish Kill. Wallingford Loop. We'll rename that the Holsworthy Anti-Loop. All right. Good. Right, I'm gonna bung a couple of trains down there just to get it rolling. The question is, where do I want to have my depot? Now the depot really ought to be out near Maryport, but there isn't a conducive area for this to happen. All right, there's some land available, and we've had depots before out near Holsworthy, so let's put it here. No, see, that's, you want to make sure you're doing it in such a way they can go down the side of the track they want to go down, you idiot. Slope is too high. Really? I'd be very surprised about that. Okay, so you don't want to build there. Fine. I'm sure Bromyard will oblige us. Especially since I can, you know, I'm very tempted to just build this as a temporary measure and then later remove it entirely. So, you know, if you want to be part of this grand railway experience, you will comply, my friend. No, don't put that in yet. So we want to go from kind of here-ish. There we go. And of course there's a vehicle in the way. Why wouldn't there be? Thank you. And then, can I slide you onto there, maybe? Not quite yet. And this is a lot of excess track going on here, but I'm trying to have this depot service both potential routes. Because we will stick some more trains down there. There we go. That's, I think we'll say adequate. Right, alright, cool. Right, so we just want to put some points in here. Have I left enough space before the junction? I'm going to say yes. And then let's signal this up so that nobody gets upset. All right, smashing. Right, I think a couple of trains will do the job. Right, bye trains. Nope, it's not a big boy, but it is a quickie. What are we looking at? 97 kilometers an hour versus 80 for the Mikado. Oh, I'm gonna do it. Let's put quick trains going down the anti-loop. Right, one of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Love it. Okay, Holsworthy anti-loop, please. There you go. Off you trot. Now, I could speed things up a little to give that a head start, but they will space out over time, just waiting for signals to be favourable. Who are you waiting for? You're apparently waiting for a free path. Oh, we've probably got an inbound service. Okay, so let's... Normally, I would not do this. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give emerging trains right of way. Or give them the opportunity for right of way, anyway. Because there's clearly another service coming up the... probably coming through the tunnel at the moment. With a bit of luck, he'll clear that before the approaching train gets anywhere near. See, look, I know my signalling system. Go on, get clear, get clear. There we go. It's clear. This train unimpeded. Brilliant. Okay, that's also a nice quick train as well. So that should rattle around the track. Nice and quick. I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to get it in immediately, which is bad idea on my part, but. To put it down to part impatience and part it doesn't matter because we're going to be running loads of them at some point. Where are we? Is that one more? There we are. Set line Holsworthy anti-loop. There we go. Off you go, my friend. Okay, great stuff. So thank you very much for watching. Let's have a quick close-up of this chap, shall we? Impressive fella. I know that the big boy is coming up later on. Now, typically, that was a good service, but it's so impressive, and I'm not running any goods yet. You can never rule out me and good services. That yeah, I don't know if I'm going to put one in or not. But I've still got 9-10 million kicking around in terms of resources. So the next episode is going to be another track building one. We'll just leave these two running together at the moment, largely to start building up demand. If I put like 8 services on this track now, they'd all get going. That's easy. But for the first couple of years, they would be just making a massive stinking loss, and that's not how we want to roll. So thank you very much for watching today. I've been Colonel Failure. Next time around, more track building, maybe even, given the balance that we've got, completing the double loop. I've done a bit of research on this already, and the next bit of track is spectacular. So tune in then. Thanks for watching today. I'll catch up with you very soon. Thanks for watching.